What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a profile for the brand new deck in the form of Argostars. So this is a brand new archetype we received in Supreme Darkness. It is a trap into monster based archetype where it gives you access to continuous trap cards that then become monsters, which is very helpful with additional effects as well. Now, I've tried to make this deck a little bit different. It is basically a control style level, and it is a very casual deck in my opinion right now. It already has confirmed support in Alliance Insight, so there are a couple of cards you're going to want to make sure you pick up early doors while they are relatively cheap, and then once that support keeps coming out, that's when this deck might start to slowly climb. It is a very cheap deck to put together, and I've tried to make it a little bit different and move back away from playing so many different control cards and balancing it out because they're so easily accessible, and then kind of focus on being able to get to your core component card, being the Argostar Glorious Adra, as this is the one that's going to give you direct access to your continuous trap cards. It's the one that allows you to build your board up, and a lot of the Argostar cards, as I go through them, you'll see require you to have a banished Argostar, and that's where the Adra comes into play. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, of course, you are going to start off with your most important card for the entire deck, and that is the Glorious Adra. Now, this was also the ultra rare promo, which is a little bit more expensive than the secret, but you should very easily be able to pick these up for about £5 a copy. The best thing about this card is it is a warrior, so it is very easily searchable by Reinforce at the Army, which you will definitely be playing. However, the Adra does the following effect. So during your opponent's turn, if you control a continuous trap card, you get a quick effect to banish this card from the hand. Make the attack of one monster on the field 0 until the end of this turn. Now that's quite important because a lot of your trap cards get additional effects if you have a banished Argostar, and that's what you're trying to set up with this card. If this card is normal summoned, a little bit annoying, I would have preferred it to be normal or special, but we roll with it. This turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your continuous trap cards or their effects. You can banish this card you control to place up to 2 Argostar continuous trap cards with different names from your hand or deck face up in your spell and trap zone. Now the benefit of that is because they're placed face up, it means you can activate them that turn, which is what's going to get the combo slowly ticking. And the card you're going to really want to be going for will be your Lightning Trudia, which I'll talk about in a second. So of course we play the one Reinforce of the Army, so you have as many copies as you legally can play of the Adra. And then I've only got 2 Trudia right now. If I have 3, you'd definitely be playing 3. I think that this is probably the better one. It's like £1 a copy. I just wasn't able to pick some up early doors. So while this card is face up in the spell and trap zone, warrior monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. And then once per turn you get to discard a card to special on this card as an effect monster, which is a warrior level 4 light, which is great because then that gives you access to Time Thief Redoer with 2000 attack and 2000 defense with the following effect. It is also still a trap. Then you get to add an Argostar card from your deck to the hand, except Lightning Trudia. And then once per turn, quick effect, you get to place this card face up in your spell and trap zone. The next one we're playing 2 of is the Slayer. This one is the next one that you could possibly be playing 3 of, but this is what I was saying, I've kind of taken back a little bit the reliance on the continuous trap cards because you're going to be able to get direct access to them through the Adra, and they can come from the hand or the field. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure they don't always go to the graveyard, as you are times when your opponent tries to target them as a monster, you make them dodge back into the spell and trap zone, and vice versa, where at all possible. So while this card is face up in the spell and trap zone, warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effect. And then once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you get to special on this card as an effect monster, warrior level 4 light monster, 800 attack, 800 defense, with the following effect. This card is also still a trap card. Then if you have a banished Argostar monster, you get to return 1 card on the field to the hand, so non-target, bounce it, and then it has the quick effect that it lets it turn itself back into a spell and trap zone. Back into a spell and trap. And then we've got 2 of the Swift Canopy. Now this one, in my opinion, is the one that you're quite comfortable playing it at 2. So while this card is face up in the spell and trap zone, warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And then once per turn, if a continuous trap card is in the monster zone, you get to special summon this card as a effect monster. So the issue is, this is like your combo extender, but you already need to have one face up already. So it's like, if you're going a bit more aggressive, off of the Glorious Adra, you'd probably set your Lightning and you'd set your Canpei. And if you're going a bit more defensive because you're going first, you'd go for the ETO and you'd go for the Lightning. So this one summons itself as an effect monster with 1800 attack and 1800 defense with the following effect. Still a trap card, but then if you have a banished Argostar monster, you gain 500 life points. And then once per turn, you get to place this card face out in the spell and trap zone. So it's a nice, it gives you a bit of a burn, but the reason you're going to need the burn is you're going to need to balance yourself back out when you're activating a card like Argostar Home Stadium. So once per turn, you get to pay 1,000 life points to add an Argostar card from your grave or banishment. So that's the issue, is that it adds it from grave or banishment, so then you kind of need to already get your Glorious Adra to the grave or banishment. Like, I would have loved this to have just been the standard field spell to search it out from the deck. It does technically play around Ash, but then it doesn't play around Bell. And then each time a continuous trap in your spell and trap zone is special summoned to your field, you inflict 500 damage to your opponent. And then once per chain, if a continuous trap card activates its effect in your monster zone while you have a banished Argostar monster, you get to target a face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effect until the end of the turn. So you can kind of see that all of these additional effects require you to have a banished Argostar, and right now you've only got one Argostar monster that can be banished. We do get a second one in Alliance Insight, but for now you need to be a little bit more reserved, which is why I didn't want to rely on those second effects of those traps as heavily. They're kind of one of the ones that once you're trying to set up and you have less interaction to deal with your opponent, they're great. But then once you're trying to deal with interactions with your opponent, you want to shift away from it, and that's where the hand traps come into play to stop them building a board that will interact with you. For the other continuous trap cards that you can play, we've got 2 of the Statue of Anguish pattern. So this one is special summons it as an effect monster, rock level 7 with 2500 defense. It's also still a trap, and then if it's summoned this way, it can't be targeted by opponent's card effects, while you control another trap card that is a monster. If it is special summoned from your spell and trap zone, you get to, while it is in the monster zone, you get to target a card in the field and destroy it, so it's a bit more aggressive. We've then got the 1 Angel Statue Uzaroon, and we've got the 1 Swamp Deity. You probably place Deity at more than 1. I only own 1 copy, which is why I kind of decided to go down this particular route a little bit less. You can also play the Illusion Trap card that the Seal Hat Rabbit came out with. I couldn't actually find my copy of it, but if I was to do that, I'd probably play 1 1-on-1, because the idea is these continuous trap cards I would get off of the back of the Seal Hat Rabbit, and then the other continuous trap cards I'd get off the Ardra, and you'll see that the space of the other continuous trap cards that I have currently swapped out will be in place of a card called Small World, and the reason for that one is through the hand traps and through the kaijus that I am main decking, this gives you the ability to bridge from either a starter to a breaker, a starter to a hand trap, or vice versa. So you're basically increasing your consistency to get to the Ardra, and then once you get there, that's when you're going to try and resolve as much as you can. For the other generic cards I'm playing is the 1 Pot Prosperity and the 1 Called by the Grave. It's a 41 card deck, so technically you cut the Called by the Grave. I know people do play Pot of Extravagance, and in an ideal world that is probably the best one to play. However, because my extra deck is flexible, like you don't need to rely on any particular card so much, but the Seal Hat Rabbit is the one you want to be focusing on, and you don't really want to be banishing all 3 copies. I know it's very rare that that will happen, but I kind of felt that Prosperity was a little bit more balanced to help me navigate around that negativity in that regards to Extravagance. For the hand traps, the one good thing that this deck can play is Dimension Shifter. There are bridges where you can actually utilize Shifter as a small world target, which also gives you a different benefit if you already have a card in the graveyard. You can also search out Dimension Shifter, and the way you can do that is technically any of your hand traps can work its way into Effect Veiler, and then Effect Veiler is a spellcaster, so it bridges into Dimension Shifter. You've also got ways that your Effect Veiler can turn you into kaijus, and if you were to play Drow and Lockbird can also be a bridge to get to Shifter or vice versa. So I'm going to show you the hand traps and then the kaijus that they can respectively get to. So we've got Triple Ash Blossom, which the idea is that if you're able to bridge into a Ash Blossom, which one of the bridges can very easily be Effect Veiler, and one other important thing to notice is the Argostar actually has 1800 defense. So that's how you're able to bridge any of your hand traps, apart from Ghost Spell, into Argostar. So you would go for something like Effect Veiler, can go into Ash, can then go into Argostar, or you can go Argostar into Ash into any monster that is either a fire, Dogoran the Mane Flayed Kaiju, or of course you can work it into an Effect Veiler. So we've got 2 Effect Veilers. You can also work your Effect Veilers into Nibs, and you can also work your Nibs into a Jizukuru the Kaiju. So of course board breaker, specific hand traps, and then you can kind of work your way through bridges of all of these. Again, the idea is if you're trying to work your way into a Argostar, you'd go a little bit of a different route, but you can always work your way into kaijus. You can always try and work your way into warriors if you play more warriors. So it's kind of just trying to utilize the ability of going from starters to board breakers to hand traps with Small World where at all possible. Then of course we've got 2 Ghost Spell, and then the kaiju of choice is the Kumungus, because again, Kumungus into Ghost Spell. The only issue with this particular line, which is probably with more hindsight and a bit more thought, you'd might want to swap these out for Ghost Mourners, and you'd swap this out for the Gandala, because then you'd go, cool, Gandala into Bell, Gandala into Mourner into Argostar, because obviously Argostar is Earth and 18 defense, so you can't use Bell as that bridge to get to it. But you can very easily go Argostar as an Earth into Kumungus into Ghost Spell, or Ghost Spell into Kumungus into Argostar. Now I know there's loads of different kind of bits that you can kind of visualize, but what I'm trying to show here, and it might be easier if I visualize it for you on camera. So you would activate Small World. Oh my god, what is going on? It's a bit of a mess now. Apologies. You'd activate Small World, so I'll just show you some of the bridges now so you have a bit of an idea. So speaking of which, we play free Small World. But in this scenario, what you could do is you would activate Small World, and let's say you've opened up Ghost Spell. So you would go Ghost Spell, reveal Comungus in the deck, which is obviously an Earth, which is the only thing that it shares with the Ghost Spell. And then you'd get into your Argostar, because the only thing that the Kaiju shares with the Argostar is the fact that it's an Earth. You do it the other way around as well, so your Argostar can go into the Kaiju, can go you to the Ghost Spell. And then, of course, there are ways to get into the Comungus, because keep in mind, you can work your way, less so for the Comungus actually, but in other ways, you could go Argostar, reveal Ash in the deck. Let's say you open up 2 Argostars. So you'd reveal 1 Argostar in the hand, reveal the Ash in the deck, and then Ash can then work its way into Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju. So where you've already opened up a starter, you can Kaiju something like their Detonator, and then you normal summon the second Argostar. So there's loads of different, like, very niche bridges, and it was just something that I thought was kind of cool, because I felt that the one thing this deck would struggle with is direct access from the deck to your Argostar, and that's kind of why I wanted to go down this particular route. And the last card is triple Infinite Impermanence. So the best thing to do is always practice the bridges with Small World, and if you feel that Small World is not your cup of tea, then of course you would take out the Small World, you can adapt your hand traps, you can go buff more control trap cards if you want to as well. For the extra deck, of course, we are playing 2 Silhouette Rabbit. You can play 3 if you want to. I feel it's a little bit of overkill, because the idea is this just requires 2 effect monsters, which means you need to turn one of your continuous trap cards into an effect monster. Their go being either Umduct or Link Spider, to then go into the Silhouette Rabbit with another effect monster, so it gets a little bit messy. And then in doing so, this then sets you another continuous trap card. For the other Link monsters, of course, just generic stuff in the form of Nightmare Phoenix, SP Little Knight, IP Masquerena. Now remember, this requires 2 non-Link monsters, so you can use your trap cards as they are. This requires effect monsters, so you do need to turn them into Spider and Umduct, which is again more of a reason why not to play Extrav, unless you're going to play 3 Spiders or 3 Umducts, because if you banish them, your trap cards aren't going to be turning into anything. And then for the XYZs, because you can like pretty much abuse rank 4s in this deck, we've got Baguska for your defense, you've got X-Tom for your board breaker, you've got Daguerres for your discards and draws, you've got Time Thief Redoer, like I love this card with a trap attached to it, so good. Eclipse Twins, obviously a little bit better in the grind game, but the idea is it then just allows you to bring back your rank 4s and keep looping it around. Abyss Dweller, probably the rank 4 of the format right now. And then because we're playing so many XYZs, you've got your Zeus, and then you work your way into your Typhon. Really is up to you. You don't have to be doing too much of it. You can cut this out, because I actually found out that a ultra rare version of this is now back up to 30 quid. So you can cut this out completely if you want to. The extra is flexible. You've got a couple of different options that you can work around with. Yeah, I think Silhouette Rabbit and Time Thief Redoer, in my opinion, are probably like the ideal ones to go for. Also in the main deck, another one that I was highly considering was the Lord of Heavenly Prisons, just to kind of protect from being blown out by Duster, because most of your trap cards are still treated as trap cards, so your opponent can still very easily Duster you, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool, thanks, bro, and then you still lose all your resource. But then obviously Cosmic Cyclone floats around and you can't really do a huge amount from it. Obviously some of your cards will be able to protect from it, which is why I ultimately decided not to go down the Legendary Lord, or the Heavenly Lord, sorry. But it's just something to play around with. Like I said, it's a very casual deck right now. It's not complete. It doesn't really have as much aggression when you're looking at the top ends, but it's just one of them decks that's actually really cheap. And if you're a trap style deck, or you've gone from like Eldritch to something like Argostars, or like you like that particular element, this is one of the decks you can pick up without breaking the bank, and then try it out and have a bit of fun with it. And in the early stages, it will catch a lot of people off guard. And then if you do get bored of it, once the new support does come out in Alliance Insight, these will take a slight bump, more so the Udra and the Lightning, and then you work your way back from there. Anyway, I hope this has been informative. I hope it's given you a bit of an idea of what Argostars are like. I thought I'd give you a relatively pure version, and then try and make it a little bit different as well, so that if one of your biggest questions was, how do I get to Ardra because it is so important in this deck, that's where Small World can help you do it, because I can't think of anything else outside of having Reinforcement of the Army to 3 where you can directly get to the Ardra as consistently as you might want to from the deck. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.